Scandal-ridden Boris Johnson quits as UK Prime Minister. Londoners reacts on Boris' resignation. Longhouse blaze leaves 19 homeless. Those are the headlines for tonight. I'm Lorenzo Isaac and this is TVS Nightline. Boris Johnson said on Thursday, July 7, that he regretted not being able to stay on as Britain's Prime Minister as he announced his resignation outside his Downing Street residence. After days of battling for his job, Johnson was deserted by all but a handful of allies after the latest in a series of scandals broke their willingness to support him. Bowing to the inevitable as more than 50 ministers quit and lawmakers said he must go, an isolated and powerless Johnson confirmed he would resign on Thursday.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. And I've agreed with Sir Graham Brady, the chairman of our backbench MPs, that the process of choosing that new leader should begin now. And the timetable will be announced next week. And I've today appointed a cabinet to serve, as I will, until a new leader is in place. So I want to say to the millions of people who voted for us in 2019, many of them voting Conservative for the first time, thank you for that incredible mandate, the biggest Conservative majority since 1987.
Johnson said he was sad to be leaving the best job in the world in the statement watched by his wife Carrie and added, "Damns the brakes." Support for Johnson had evaporated during one of the most turbulent 24 hours in recent British political history, with Finance Minister Nadhim Zahawi, who was only appointed to his post on Tuesday, July 5th, calling on his boss to resign. Zahawi and other cabinet ministers had gone to Downing Street on Wednesday evening, July 6, along with a senior representative of those lawmakers not in government to tell Johnson the game was up. Initially, Johnson refused to go and seemed set to dig in, sacking Michael Gove, a member of his top ministerial team, who was one of the first to tell him he needed to resign in a bid to reassert his authority. By Thursday morning, as a slew of resignations poured in, it became clear his position was untenable. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced his resignations with mixed thoughts looms the street of London. Londoners conveyed their mixed reaction to the news of his resignation.
Okay, I actually quite like Boris. I think he's very jovial, very optimistic, but it's gone too far. He has to go.
Because he's a buffoon, he's an idiot and you can't trust him. It's like dealing with 11-year-old children who just say, "It wasn't me, it wasn't me."
The answer is I don't think he's got the mandate of the people, although he believes he has. Where I think he's coming from is a situation not dissimilar from Mrs Thatcher, except I think Mrs Thatcher had a lot less votes against her than he's had. I think he's a bit of a chancer, and that's why I think he does have to go. Get Sunak in, he's the one.
Leave, go, just go. Don't want to see you anymore. Just goodbye.
Lifelong Tory voter here, not anymore. Boris has to go. It's an absolute disgrace.
5 units of a 7-door longhouse Rumah Nurliza Sungai Menyen, Sibu were destroyed in a fire this afternoon. Fire and Rescue Department Chief Jangan Muling, in a statement today, said that upon receiving a distress call at 1:20 p.m., 2 teams of firefighters were deployed to the scene. According to Jangan, the fire involved a non-permanent structured house with an estimated area of 50 × 20. No injuries were reported and the cause of the fire has yet to be determined as investigations are still ongoing. Premier of Sarawak, Dato' Patinggi Tan Sri Abang Johari Tun Openg, who is leading a 5-day study visit to Singapore until July 9th, paid a courtesy call on Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong at his office in the Istana on Thursday. According to a statement from the office of the Premier of Sarawak, the two leaders held a discussion for half an hour on subjects of mutual interest to both Sarawak and Singapore, as well as current issues affecting the region and the world.
In a statement, the Premier's visit is part of his agenda to learn more about how Singapore's sovereign wealth fund is managed and operated and to advance and enhance economic cooperation between the island republic and Sarawak. Accompanying the Premier during the call were Deputy Premiers Dato' Amar Douglas Ugah Umbas, Dato' Amar Awang Tengah Ali Hassan, and Dato' Sri Dr. Sim Kui Hian. Also present was the High Commissioner of Malaysia to Singapore, Dato' Dr. Asfar Mohamad Mustafar. The Premier and members of the delegation had a similar session with Singapore's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Lawrence Wong, earlier in the day, followed by a call on Senior Minister and Coordinating Minister for National Security, Teo Chee Hian. The delegation also visited Temasek Holdings at its headquarters, where the delegation was briefed on the operation and management of the Singapore government's domestic investment arm.
Sarawak government's initiative in empowering women through various programs was lauded by the Associated Country Women of the World, ACWW. Its president, Maggie de Kock, said this is in line with the goal of empowering women worldwide.
I was touched by the fact that so many aspects of women are being approached here, and not only approached, there is action taken to enhance the lives of women in general, and that gives me such a warm feeling in my heart.
She said so during a courtesy call to Women, Childhood and Community Wellbeing Development Minister, Dato' Sri Fatima Abdullah in Wisma Wanita on Thursday. The event witnessed Mark D officiating the opening ceremony of the Kuching Community Sewing Center and the spa and beauty training classes. Meanwhile, commenting on the training classes, Fatima said it was in accordance with the establishment of Wisma Wanita, which is to equip women with skills that can be used to generate income.
With that skills, they can generate income and able to bring extra income to the family and hence improve the socio-economic status of the woman.
The visit was also accompanied by delegations from Sabah, Pulau Pinang, Brunei, and the Philippines.
Two siblings who lost their parents in an accident in May have received benefits from the Social Security Organization's SOXO benefits in the form of monthly pension. Chief Political Secretary to the Premier, Fazruddin Abdul Rahman, the siblings Muhammad Ridwan Abdul Wahab, 16 years old, and 12-year-old Muhammad Risman Abdul Wahab would receive 1,317 ringgit every month until they reach the age of 21.
Tetapi Alhamdulillah mereka merupakan pencarum kepada Pekeso atas tindakan pantas Pekeso menyiasat dan menyelidik, dan pada hari ini keluarga mereka, waris mereka iaitu kedua-dua anak telah layak untuk menerima pension bulanan pension bulanan, dapatlah menampung sedikit keperluan untuk mereka melanjutkan pelajaran.
In addition, both siblings will also receive funeral expenses management amounting to 4,000 ringgit, as well as financial assistance into pursuing their higher education.
Jika mata pelajaran ataupun keputusan peperiksaan mereka baik, maka Pekeso juga akan membantu untuk menguruskan ataupun membantu dari sudut beasiswa untuk mereka melanjutkan pelajaran mereka ke peringkat yang lebih tinggi.
Fazruddin, who is also Tupong assemblyman, said aside from receiving contribution benefits, SOXO will also look into foster option as a means to provide welfare for the two siblings.
The full opening lanes for 6 and 7 mile flyovers will be further delayed due to shortage of bitumen supply in Kuching since early June. Sarawak Public Works Department JKR in a statement issued on Thursday indicate that the supplier was faced with delayed shipment from Singapore.
Further complicating the situation was the breakdown of one of the independent oil terminals in Sejingkat, Kuching since June. However, contractors remain committed on completing and opening both flyovers by mid-July and early August. On May 23rd, Senior Works Minister Dato Sri Fadila Yusof reportedly said that the single lanes for the 6th and 7th mile flyovers would be open to motorists before July.
Coming up right after the break, drop in number of unemployed persons in May 2022. OPR increase impacts people's financial health. Right here on TVS Nightline, stay tuned.
Episod kali ini
Welcome back. On Wednesday, Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM) announced an increase in the overnight policy rate by 25 basis points to 2.25%, the second such move this year. BNM said the increase is largely due to the positive growth of the Malaysian economy. According to Associate Professor in the Faculty of Economics and Business, University Malaysia Sarawak Unimas, Dr. Evan Lau, said while the move intends to reduce inflation, have financial implications on the general public.
How actually this will impact the general public and people? Surely, as I said just now, is very much concerned, especially on the increase of costs and prices of goods and services, as we already seen, right? But this move actually is to what they believe in is to reduce the inflationary pressure, they call it. So, and certainly with the removal of the subsidies, and then we have this floating ceiling prices. Plus this rising of the OPR might actually directly raise the cost of living for the general public, including you.
To counter this, Lau said the government should put emphasis on re-evaluating on the price control for certain commodities and products.
With the consumption pattern of the people, then the increase of OPR might not be so something so negative towards the people in that sense. And also, I believe that the government should also further stimulate the economy by increasing its spending on infrastructure, improve the infrastructure, attract some foreign investment coming in. On top of this increase of OPR, the government also should address, go ahead with what we call, what the economists call as a mixture of policy, rather than looking at one-sided policy, especially for this sustainable growth for development of the country. Like the government also should think about or should have different sets of policy options or policy tools that should address, for example, the control of price, the stimulating the economy, and then provide necessary spending for sectors that could contribute back to the.
He added, the adjustment will affect certain hire and purchase loans depending on the bank. He cautioned that there may be another increase in the policy rate by the end of the year, depending on several factors.
Central bank, certainly they will have to look at what's the impact of what they have, the policy that have been introduced right now. And then by the next meeting, then they will further decide whether they should be further increase or they would maintain the rate, because it depends on how it's going to impact or how it's going to impact the inflationary.
The number of unemployed persons in May this year continued to decline by 1.8% to 637,700 persons from 649,300 people as compared to last month. According to the statistics of the labor force for May 2022, released by the Department of Statistics Malaysia on Thursday, dictates the labor force situation during remain resilient, registering a month-on-month increase in the number of labor force by 0.2% to a record 16.54 million persons from 16.5 million persons in April.
He said the number of employed persons ascended further last May by 0.3% to a record 15.9 million persons from 15.85 million persons in April, with the largest composition of employed persons involving 76.2% in the employees category. He said the own account workers, which consist mostly of daily income earners such as retailers, hawkers, sellers in markets and stalls, as well as smallholders, also improved by an addition of 0.7% to a record 2.74 million persons in May, compared to a 2.72 million persons the previous month. According to Muhammad Uzair, the recovery of the labor market in May 2022 continued to be stable, aligned with the full operation of all economic activities. In the economic sector, he said the services sector continued to record a positive growth in employment, especially in wholesale and retail trade, information and communication, and food and beverage.
With Aidilada just days away, Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin has advised the public to remain vigilant and not take the current COVID-19 situation lightly. He said the recent Hari Raya Aidilfitri celebration in May saw the daily COVID-19 cases in Malaysia shoot up to 3,410 cases on May 12.
Khairi said this is due to the movements of people and social gatherings during house visiting. Thus, he urged the people to continuously adhere to the standard operating procedures SOP by wearing face masks and maintaining hygiene, and to continually practice TRIS, test, report, isolate, inform and seek method. On Wednesday, Kari warned of the spread of the Omicron subvariants reported around the world, adding that over 110 countries, including Singapore and Indonesia, had reported a spike in COVID-19 cases linked to the BA.4 and BA.5 subvariants. Malaysia on Wednesday also logged over 3,561 COVID-19 infections, the highest numbers in the past 2 months.
The second Malaysian on death row in Singapore's Changi prison, Singh, was sent to the gallows early this morning after the Singapore Court of Appeal dismissed his final appeal on Wednesday. After the execution, his remains were brought back to his hometown in Cameron Highlands.
Kalwan's execution was confirmed by his counsel, Tu Sing. Last night, a group had gathered for a candlelight vigil in front of the Singapore High Commission in Kuala Lumpur in an attempt to stop the execution. The 32-year-old had been on death row in Singapore since he was convicted on June 1, 2016 for drug trafficking and handed down the mandatory death penalty. His conviction and death sentence were upheld by the Court of Appeal the same year. Kalwan, who hails from Cameron Highlands, Pahang, was arrested in Singapore in 2013. He was convicted on charges of possession of 60.15 gram of dimorphine and trafficking 120.9 gram of the drug. Earlier on April 27 this year, another Malaysian, Negantron K. Dharmalingam, was executed in the city-state for trafficking heroin.
Now, on to some global affairs. The suspect accused of killing 7 people and wounding dozens more at the 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois, drove for more than 2 hours to Madison, Wisconsin after the incident, where he seriously contemplated a shooting at another Independence Day celebration.
Robert Cremo III, the 21-year-old suspect facing 7 counts of murder, appeared at a court via video 2 days after the attack in Highland Park, Illinois, and was denied bail by the judge.
Well, his statement was voluntary. He was questioned in the Highland Park Police Department. He was read his Miranda warnings, offered attorneys, etc. He went into details about what he had done. He admitted to what he had done.
More charges are expected against Cremo, whose next court appearance is scheduled for July 28. If convicted, he would face a mandatory life prison sentence without the possibility of parole.
What investigative leads have thus turned up is that while he was driving and he located this celebration occurring in the Madison area, he contemplated another attack with the firearm he had in his car. His cell phone was dumped in the 6500 block of University Avenue in Middleton. That was recovered yesterday by the FBI, and it's being processed right now.
Anti-government protests continued across Sri Lanka on Wednesday, July 6, during the country's worst economic crisis in decades. Hundreds of protesters who were gathered near the parliament building were hit with water cannons and tear gas as they launched what they call the final push of the struggle to topple the government of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa.
The protests have been led by young people and supported by opposition political parties, trade unions, civil society activists, and ordinary civilians. People have been suffering from shortages of fuel, power, food, and other items for weeks, and doctors say the entire health system could now collapse. The president's various moves, including securing financial support from India and China, have failed to end the shortages or the spontaneous street protest across the country. Rajapaksa on Wednesday said he urged Russian leader Vladimir Putin to help his cash-strapped island nation import fuel. Sri Lanka has already bought oil from Russia, and the government has indicated it is willing to make further purchases.
The atmosphere in the northern Spanish city of Pamplona was electric on Thursday, July 7, as the first bull run kicked off following a 2-year hiatus due to COVID-19 restrictions. Sporting white clothing with red neckerchiefs, hundreds of runners armed with adrenaline were chased through the narrow city center streets for 800 meters by specially bred fighting bulls.
The run lasted for 2 minutes and 35 seconds. Where 3 runners were taken to hospital due to injuries caused by falls, but nobody was gored. At least 16 runners have lost their lives since records began, the last casualty being a man gored by a bull in 2009. The San Fermin Festival dates back to the Middle Ages and has religious origins. Participants still chant to an image of the saint and ask for his blessing before the run, which starts at 8 o'clock. Popularized by Ernest Hemingway's novel The Sun Also Rises, Pamplona's fiesta attracts thousands of thrill seekers and revelers from around the world who come to witness the Morning Bull runs over the week-long festival, as well as to enjoy the wine-fueled festivities.
In the simplest of terms, diversity and inclusion encompass a group of unique individuals who acquaint and integrate with one another, but each are entirely different concepts with separate benefits. So to know more about diversity and inclusion, get some insights with the expert on Sejahtera Asia tomorrow with guest Magdi de Kock, World President of Associated Country Women of the World, with hosts Ghazali Zawawi and Sharon Kezia, 7:45 a.m. on TVS Astro Channel 122 and My Freeview. See the world closer with TVS as we bring you the latest news updates both locally and internationally. Just a click away by heading onto our official website or follow us on our social media platforms. That's all the time we have for TVS Nightline. I'm Lorenzo Isaac. Thank you for watching.